Welcome to the Foundry, where leaders are forged daily. And now your host, George Roberts.
Welcome back, entrepreneurs. Today we have Amy Sylvis, founder of Sylvis Capital. Welcome to the show, Amy.
Thank you so much. This is a lot of fun. I'm really excited to be here.
It is a lot of fun. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to turn off my virtual background for a moment so you can see where I'm actually. So you can see here I am way out in Vassar, Michigan, a place most people probably haven't heard of.
Right.
And we're going to do this show live today with a couple of elk and a few deer, maybe a caribou.
Perfect. It's ideal companionship for a podcast.
Absolutely. And first, I think we should start with the basics. So tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into commercial real estate.
Yes. So as you mentioned, I'm Amy Sylvis. I live in Los Angeles, California with my amazing husband. We're both LA natives, which is a little bit of a rarity there. And I actually originally come from the biotech sector, working in drug development and helping people with rare diseases was something that really resonated with me, and we can get into that later. But I was on this mission to figure out how I could have more freedom, time freedom, geographic freedom for not only myself for some health personal reasons, but also because of just the lifestyle I wanted to design for myself. So multifamily real estate, which I candidly kind of stumbled into as I was doing this research, has proven to be an incredible fit for exactly what I was looking for.
Yeah, amazing. And I don't usually mention this on the show, but biotech, that was one of my passions. I wanted to go into the biotech space so bad. And the only way I was able to get out of academia, I had to get a master's degree in computer science. And then I became an award-winning data scientist. So I guess it didn't turn out all so bad after all. But yes, never got that biotech job, even though I got my PhD. I did a couple of postdocs. I even did animal research because they said that's what they need, right? Because everybody, it seems, knows molecular biology these days. But if you want to do anything that's going to help humans, you probably need to know a little bit about rodents.
Wow, George, you have an endlessly fascinating background. A few of those nuggets I did not know about you. Really impressive.
I wish I was as interesting in reality as you seem to find me, but here we are. All right, so I want to do this early in the show. So all right, so I think you have a very interesting nickname. And you have an interesting nickname for me. I don't really look my best today, so I don't have my 3-point lighting. I'm just out here, like I said, with maybe a moose or two, maybe a caribou if we're lucky. But so your nickname, as I understand, is the Inflation Fairy.
I actually haven't heard that, but yes, if one does mention inflation on LinkedIn, I do pop up magically. That is absolutely how that works.
Well, it is your hashtag, so I don't know if it's your
That's hilarious.
if we can say that officially yet or not. So I have an idea here, and we'll see how this turns out. I want to do something kind of different this time. It is a video of Amy Sylvis being called down to be the next contestant on The Price is Right.
Here it comes, television's most exciting hour of fantastic prizes. The fabulous 60-minute prize is right. Deborah Hurley, come on down.
So I'm sure, as you figured, this is going to be The Price is Right with a little bit of a twist. So I'm going to ask you not what is the price of items today, but what is the price of items in the past? So how does that sound?
Let's go.
All right,
that sounds exciting.
Oh, you know what? I think I shared the wrong one. Let's resume the slideshow. Okay, here we go. Coca-Cola. What was the price of Coca-Cola in 1898? What do you suppose?
I'm going to go with 3 cents.
Oh, awesome. I think most people would be way off, but it was 5 cents between 1886 and 1949.
Wow.
And yes. Yes, absolutely. So the CPI said Coca-Cola should be about 51. So this is a little disappointing to me. I thought we were going to get some major evidence that Coca-Cola is going to tell us that the CPI is vastly underinflating inflation. So let's see. And by the way, this is completely random, by the way.
Okay.
Not by any means a what you call a scientific survey. Because again, what we're seeing here in the newspapers, these are going to be like your loss leaders, right? This is what they
Yes.
bought a ton of Miracle Whip, and it's like now it's cheaper than usual. So, but let's go on. So let's see. So this is from Super Value. They used to be really big.
Okay.
And now I know they've still got a few in the Midwest. Okay. So how about this? How about chicken? What do you think chicken was in 1964 per pound?
Per pound. Oh, this one's going to be a tougher one. Okay. I'm going to go with maybe 10 cents per pound.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. So it's actually, I was supposed to do that, I think, one at a time.
Got it.
25 cents.
25 cents. There's
25 cents. So again, yeah, it's pretty amazing the sort of inflation we've seen. What do you suppose Miracle Whip was going for in 1964?
Okay, so the past two I've been under by a little bit. So I'm going to go above kind of where my gut instinct is. I'm going to say let's go with 15 cents.
Okay, 15 cents. It's actually, I want to say 39.
39 cents.
39
Wow.
cents.
Under by a lot
Amazing.
again.
1964. Okay.
Wow.
So, yeah. All right. Now let's fast forward to 1980. What do you think this box O chicken is going to go for per pound?
Box O chicken per pound. Okay. So we're taking into account what we just learned. So I'm going to go with 60 cents per pound.
Oh, sorry. I think I should ask you for the hams first.
Oh,
so
okay.
37. So actually hasn't increased that much yet, but I think your jaw will drop on the next one. Okay. Now where is Miracle Whip at 1980?
Okay. 1980. I'm going to go with 90 cents.
99.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna have to watch this again, and I think we'll do some comparisons. So now we're fast forwarding to the modern day.
Okay.
I'll move this over a little bit. So now, oh, actually, you know what? I think this is sort of a mistake on my part. This is boneless, skinless chicken breast, but best I could do on short notice.
Mhm.
Per pound, what are you going to pay for that boneless, skinless chicken breast?
I bet we're paying at least $9 a pound.
Whoa, maybe in California it's $2.99, but that's still shocking.
Okay.
Because again, look, it was only what?
Yeah.
37 cents a pound.
Crazy.
In May of 1980. All right, now what are you going to pay for that Miracle Whip?
Yeah. I think probably at least $3.
Yeah. Okay, 3 and some change. You got a final answer?
Yes. Final answer.
Is 3? We're gonna go with 3?
I'm going to go with 3. I'm going to double down.
All right, $3.99.
Wow.
So we got a 3 handle on that Miracle Whip. So it wasn't so long ago you were getting that for what? Was it 25%? No, 39%, 1964. And look at that. And here we go. So we got a little graph here. So take a look at this price inflation. I mean, this is just amazing, isn't it? So here's our chicken just going off the charts. And it looks like a lot of that has happened
Wow.
since the 1980s. We don't have a lot of data points in here. Again, the Miracle Whip. And then Coca-Cola. So great story behind that. I think that there was so little inflation on that for a while because they didn't want you to have to put 2 coins into the machine to get your Coca-Cola. They thought that might decrease. I don't know why they didn't do an A/B test. That's what I would have done. Of course, I'm coming from the science. Here we got, bioscience, biotech here. That might have been our way of approaching it, but
Yes.
they didn't do that. And the machines back then didn't have the technology to make change. So,
Oh, fun fact.
yes. And they were also the low price for a long time. I think of Coca-Cola's quality, but they really wanted to be the low price provider. So they stayed at 5% for a long time. And if I remember correctly, I think it was 1949 was the beginning of 6-cent Coke. And then I think maybe it was by 1949 or 1959, that was the last of the 5-cent Cokes. But there you go. So I want to do a comparison here. So for the Coca-Cola, oh, actually, my mistake. Actually, I did a miscalculation earlier. That does look like quite a bit of inflation if you take it back to 1886.
Of course.
1886. And again, we're seeing a little less. I think I have to update that figure. But again, look, if you look at the CPI, and these are increases. So not like 8.56 times, it's like 9.56 times.
Yeah.
But again, we're seeing at least 100% more inflation from the Price is Right. So
Not surprising. Not surprising. This is great data. I'm impressed by you.
Yes, yes. Okay, so I thought that would be fun. And
Yeah.
actually, I'll tell you what, I gave a couple people, just 2 people in the world have a preview on this, but Andrew Rosenberg, he helped give me this idea. There was an old, I want to say he was a Reagan economist,
Mhm.
and he just like got pulled out of retirement to talk about inflation because he made the right call. And so now how might he have done that? Well, and again, this is the only time in history that I have made a presentation for a podcast. But yes, just using the old monetarist theory.
Yes.
And see, I figured this is not going to be like a car crash interview. I think that's more like a British word, right? The car crash interview, because I know that you love economics and you are totally up on inflation. So yeah, here's your old quantity theory of money.
Yep.
Just trotted that out, made some simple assumptions. And so you got the money supply, you got the velocity of money,
Mhm.
and the price level and real GDP, which we know has been going down
Yes.
lately. But again, this is what I love about some of the older economics and even some of the older economics modeling is that it really makes sense. I mean, we aren't talking about a model that's so difficult that you can't really get an intuitive handle on it.
Right. Right. I think you're spot on. Yeah. Sometimes there is a lot of wisdom in simplicity, right?
Absolutely. I want to see, was there something else here? Oh, yes. Now let's cue the "This Is Your Life" music.
This is Your Life, the program you dare not miss.
So I feel like, I don't know if you're as old as I am. I think, no, actually, you're like about a half a generation younger than me.
No, I'm 41. I don't mind
41.
saying.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm about to turn 49, so not quite
we're
a half a
similar.
generation younger.
Yeah.
Similar. So all right, so This Is Your Life. So I just want to say, I always thought that you had one of the coolest groups. So this is, of course, 𝐁𝐻 Capital. You've also got Sylvis running. And I asked you once, like, how did you grow so fast? And by the way, let's not let it pass without pointing out, there's Amy jumping for joy, doing the old Hudson hop. And I want to say you got such a cool group. And you said, how did I grow so fast? I just partnered up. And 𝐁𝐻 just has a ton of partners. So you've actually got structure to this. So in our pre-interview, you let me know that, so you've got like leadership structure of 𝐁𝐻, and then you got people that are just GPs and 𝐁𝐻. So this is clearly a bigger group than we're even seeing in this Hudson hop photo.
Absolutely. Yeah. Incredible group. People that I feel so honored to be able to, do business with. As you mentioned, I'm not part of 𝐁𝐻 Capital, but do business with them. And, partnering with people that have like-minded values and, of course, complementary skill sets. There's no better way to grow your business.
All right. Awesome. And I want to say, I think you're the only one that I've met in person. I've interacted with a lot of these people online, and I think I might have had a quick chat with Chad.
Oh,
But yes, but all great people.
yeah. Well, and I can see you and Chad having a ton in common. He has an incredible brain, just like you do. So, not that everyone else doesn't, but he's a bit more of an engineering, type,
Right.
which, he's
Right.
fantastic.
And now I also have to meet Aaron Hudson as well, but it would feel a little weird because my doctoral advisor, I'm not making this up, his name was Dr. Hudson.
Oh,
So that sounds a little weird to me. I
small
just
world.
like burned into my mind a completely different person when I think Dr. Hudson. So yeah, he gave me some of the best advice in my life. He saw me a little downhearted working on my dissertation one day.
Wow.
And he said, the whole rest of your life, George, you're going to be on the other side of this. And I found that coming back to me many, many times. That advice is good, not just for dissertation writing.
Right. Wow. Well, and I think actually anyone who gets to talk to Aaron Hudson, Dr. Aaron Hudson, would come away feeling the same, is equally inspired and encouraged. Her energy is, it is so positive. I think everyone around her just feels uplifted. So there must be something with that name. Yeah.
I believe it. I believe it. And I don't know if I could ever replicate that Hudson hop. It's pretty amazing. I just completely threw my back out. So we'll see if I do that in her presence. Probably not. Okay. Now I have like one more. Oh, here it is. One more blast from the past. So This Is Your Life, Amy. So you posted this a few weeks ago. I think a lot of us are kind of frustrated. It's like, why don't we just declare the recession and just get over with it? I feel like if you face something head on, that it's easier. But for some reason, and I understand there is some countervailing data. So I don't know where you stand politically, or I think I know a little bit about where you stand as far as inflation is concerned. But you know, it's just weird. And we do have an increase in employment, but we have a decrease in labor force participation. And I don't know if you had a, I'll just give the answer to you if you don't mind, because I just saw this morning, but Andrew Rosenberg showed me, and this comes from Zero Hedge, that the reason is it's people working apparently 2 or 3 jobs.
Yes.
If you look at people working one job, that there are actually fewer people working, and you got all these people, and I'm sure, and I hate to say it because I don't want to sound elitist, but you know, it's true. It is the poorer folks that are out there working 2 or 3 jobs to handle all this inflation for all these rich people who thought they knew how to, that we can shut the economy down and we can start it right back up again. And look what they did.
Right.
Just look. All right.
I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. Yeah. Sometimes, you know, you show this comic strip, but sometimes comedy is one of the only ways we can tell truth to authority, right?
Absolutely. Reminding me of Voltaire.
Hmm.
Figure out, oh, you know what I'm going to quote? Give it to
I
me.
don't.
Okay. So figure out whom you cannot ridicule, and those are your masters.
Wow. Goosebumps. What an apt
Exactly.
quote.
I feel like you probably also, I know you have, I think we should probably come back to economics because I think you have just tons of insight, but I think you also have some insight into the media. And I'll tell you, I have my answer as to why there's so much of this going on. And I think you did use the word, I think you used gaslighting in this post.
Yes.
But you might have seen a movie, I think this was from the 1930s. And I saw this movie only once, but the plot, it was tremendous. A story of an international criminal and one woman's heart. And she was an interesting character too, right? A very interesting character.
It was written 2 days before she was murdered.
Where did you find that?
In this score, she must have left it here. It's written by somebody called Sergius Bauer.
Give it to me.
He said I wasn't any liquor. He said I was going out of my mind.
You're not going out of your mind. You're slowly and systematically being driven out of your mind.
But why? Why? Oh, that's wonderful.
And you thought I was being cruel to you. Keeping people away
not
from
cruel.
you. Making you a prisoner.
Oh, you're the kindest man in the world. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Our live audience doesn't get to enjoy that today, but you will get to see that in the video. So anyway, there you go. Why do you think there's so much gaslighting going on? I would say across the media. It seems like, particularly to our tastes, we'd like to talk about economics, but why so much gaslighting these days?
You know, I think the nature of the political system is such, rightly or wrongly, that whoever's in power is blamed for what's currently going on, you know, economically. And I think you and I both understand, but I'm not sure the general public does, that what happened with, you know, what has created inflation, what happened with inflation by far and large is really the Federal Reserve's work. This isn't something Trump did. This isn't something Biden did, in my humble opinion. You know, creating 25 to 30% of all dollars ever created in a 24-month period of time is got a pretty predictable outcome. So, but Biden's having, sorry?
From the creature from
the creature
Island.
Exactly. So, you know, regardless of where you stand politically, and, you know, I don't see this as a political issue. The Fed is not Republican nor Democrat, but, you know, I see the current administration desperately trying to, as expected, and I think Trump would do the same, to say, hey, this isn't me, right? This isn't either me or this really isn't going on. So
thank you.
It's unfortunate.
Thank you. And I think you mentioned a lot of things that I would just love to underscore. So we know that with economics, there is a lag. Now, my explanation would include, of course, that there was a lot of money printed, a ton of money printed, but also we had the shutting down of the economy.
Yes.
And so that's one of the reasons why I wanted to show MV equals PY. I wanted to show people to give you the idea that what happens when you not only print a lot of money, but people are sitting at home, that velocity of money. I mean, everybody's ordering stuff on Amazon, and then we're less productive.
Yes.
We're less productive when people are not going to work.
Right.
So first we have our GDP going down, and then now we have 2 consecutive negative quarters, and labor force participation still. I mean, I'm hoping this is a little blip, because if we see that labor force participation, the last 2 major events, I got to apologize. I'm doing so much talking. I'm just so excited to be talking to Amy Sylvis here.
This is important.
And I think you'd probably name the same 2 last events is that we've had the coronavirus crisis, and then we had this sort of great reset, or people just walking away, laying down, or whatever they call it in China, similar idea, laying back, and the Great Recession. And from neither of these has labor force participation. And I, hey, here's a gimme. I mean, we do have an aging population, but that doesn't explain it. Every time things were set down, something else happens before we trend back up. So your reactions.
I think you're spot on. I think, to your point, understanding velocity of currency or velocity of money is incredibly important. And yes, we intentionally shut down the economy. So it is no surprise that when things started to open up, velocity of money, still hasn't recovered, but it is higher than it was, just a year or 2 ago. And we're seeing prices of goods and services predictably increase. So with that increased velocity and supply of currency. So it is, and back to kind of that great formula you shared, this isn't overly complex. I know some people would like to make you think, pat you on the head and, oh, this is too complex for you to understand, right? But in reality, those of us who study monetary history and economics saw this coming very clearly.
Yeah, exactly. And I would have predicted that in 2008, we would have had some massive inflation. And I was wondering, what does it take? And, I went back to a lot of things. I'm sure you're familiar with Ray Dalio and his economic machine. And I thought, well, maybe that's it. Maybe we just haven't really gotten quite to that deleveraging point yet. It'll take some extreme event. But once it gets started, how is it going to stop? I remember riding the school bus, and people were getting like 6% in their savings accounts. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, oh my God, and they were still getting eaten alive. But still, I wouldn't mind getting a few dollars, because, I know you believe in gold a little bit, and I do too, and also keeping a cash position. So I would think I'm kind of somewhat complementary to your position.
Yes.
So not having the gold, but I do keep a decent cash position. And I think I was probably a little more wealthy. I would go for the gold. Like you mentioned, I know, I'm sorry, I'm sharing conversations here. So we got to bring everybody up to speed that, hey, you can get in and out of that gold position. So it is in many ways like cash. If you have a decent sized gold position, when you need something, hey, you can cash that in and you can do what you need to do.
Right. Great point. I would love to go back, if I could, if you would humor me, to the 2008 inflation conversation.
Let's do it. Let's take us back. So let's I have to cue some creepy Twilight Zone music. We're going back to way 2008.
I would submit to you all that there was inflation. The United States just exported it. So we look at the Arab Spring. We look at a lot of increase in cost of food that really happened throughout the rest of the world that caused a lot of political unrest. The United States having the world's reserve currency, and people, back then, maybe a little less now, still trusted the value of the dollar. So we're able to import all sorts of goods and services from the rest of the world and trade the dollar for it. So, we truly, as the United States, exported a bunch of our inflation from that quantitative easing period of time then. So it just didn't hit us domestically, but obviously those chickens are coming home to roost now.
Great. Yes, I think we need to hit that a little harder. So here, let's do the name game a little bit. So I remember The Economist, it was Steve Hanke. So he was the one who was applying the old monetarist theory to correctly predict inflation. And then let's try another name game here. Let's see if I can pull this one out of my hat right away. Brent Johnson.
Ooh.
Sound familiar?
No.
So you may have heard of the dollar milkshake theory.
I have.
Yeah, so that's Brent Johnson and his attempt to explain how this dollar demand overseas, and that really, I think, hooks in or dovetails with the idea of, yes, we are the world's reserve currency. And there's a lot that goes with that. I mean, there are all these futures contracts in dollars. And if you want to trade something on a large scale, what are you going to do?
Yep.
I mean, sure, you could use the Chinese yuan, you could use euros. There are other options or opportunities to go forth, but there really isn't anything as large as the dollar, as trusted as a dollar. And I mean, despite all the debauchery we've seen with our currency lately, that is, I mean, in many ways, truthfully, as good as the dollar. Even now with the euro, one of the things I like about all this economics, it ties into everything, doesn't it?
Yes, precisely. It is understanding all of this is one reason why I did get into real estate. You're spot on.
Yes. And so a lot of things. So like, let's get back to that. So I brought up like about 10 points. So let's get back and have some Amy reacting. So you're talking about the US dollar as the world's reserve currency. So anything you want to add to that before we move on?
I think a lot of people don't realize that the United States essentially requires everyone trade oil in dollars, which is another thing that really, increases demand for our currency. So yeah, it gives us a lot of privileges, a lot of powers. Yes. We'll see what happens with that moving forward. I think there are definitely challengers to the dollar reserve currency status that may be coming over the hill. But I think you bring up really great points, and it's essential for all of us to understand and follow.
Okay, and then maybe we can go on a geopolitical slant for a moment. So then, one of the privileges you mentioned is that, well, all of these dollar contracts, they're getting, as I understand, cleared through the Federal Reserve. So if there's any rogue states, and I know I'm old enough to remember Gaddafi back before Reagan sent a couple of jets after him. And, after that, he kind of changed his tune. But when you do have these outlaw states, if people are using the dollar, people always say, like, I don't want war, I want sanctions. But I don't think people realize that. It's like they don't realize that a no-fly zone requires scrambling fighter jets all day long.
Yes.
And to impose sanctions, that requires that we either have a world reserve currency, or that if there are going to be two or a basket, that means we all have to agree, and that's not easy.
Such a great point. Yeah, there's a lot more that goes on behind the scenes, either designing the policy, enforcing the policy, exactly to your point.
Yeah. So, so let's see if we can extend on the geopolitical theme. So lately, and I have been following this the last few weeks, but we've seen the dollar appreciating against the euro. And obviously this is because of the war in Europe.
Yeah.
And again, all of these things, I feel like, economics, they call it the dismal science, but I find it rather fascinating.
Agreed.
Because although it may throw cold water on some of our expectations or desires, like that rent control that will work, or let me see if I can think of something that's not overly controversial to our audience. But again, it's difficult to craft economic policy that makes people happy and which actually works.
Right. But I think that dovetails in the notion of, why are people crafting economic policy, to a certain extent, should there just be more free market activity? I know that's a whole other conversation, but I'm going to throw that one at you.
She kicked over that can of worms, stepped on the hornet's nest. We're talking about economic freedom today.
Yeah. How dare I?
I would couch it in terms of economic freedom. I'm not here to rain on anybody's parade or tell you what to believe. One of the things I love about entrepreneurship, no, we don't all agree or get along when it comes to politics. However, I would hope that we could, at least at some point in the near future, agree that economic freedom is good. And if you can go out and you can buy an apartment and do what you need to do to renovate that, and you can provide people with safe, clean, affordable housing, that's a good thing. And that if we were waiting for the government to make apartments for us, it would probably be like like the Soviet Union, right, where they got thousands of red shoes, but people wanted green or blue.
Right. Great analogy.
And so by the time it would get to the place where it was needed, who knows, people may have moved on. So Correct. I just love this agile free market. it's exciting. I mean, here to quote another, I'm going to see if I get this right. I think this might be Mae West. She might have been talking about something else, but I feel like, if we live as entrepreneurs, you get to live by your wits, right?
Ooh, that's a good one. I haven't heard that one before.
Exactly. So again, you go back in context, she might have been talking about something different, but
Hey, we'll have
but
it
I think that a good quote deserves to be reused. So anyway, I guess we're going to have to change the background now. So anything else about gaslighting? Any theories as to why did it get so bad?
Yeah. Gosh, I wish I had more insight other than, if we're changing the goalpost constantly, what are we to believe? So, yeah, it's I'm not going to get too dark or too conspiratorial, but well, unless you really want me to, but no, I think we all kind of understand what's going on, and we hope for improved economic times. Hopefully it's a short-lived recession. Hopefully the economy bounces back. Yeah, absolutely. We've got midterms coming up, so we're always hoping for the best.
Absolutely. So I'll give you quickly, very briefly, my theory is that people are just watching more news these days, and the media has never been so powerful. And I think that they got a little full of themselves. And I think our politicians got a little full of themselves. Now, I don't know, you might agree with me. We haven't talked about this in the past, but I know you were from California. And I remember, actually, I have a few old masks. I was going to put my Gavin Newsom mask on, and I was going to mock me here. I'm going to take a bite of food and then I'm supposed to put it back. Right. I think that's what you were supposed to do in California for a while. Yes. I mean, we weren't far behind you in Michigan, but I don't think anybody was as harsh as, but everybody, the public policy, and I guess I won't go conspiratorial about the vaccine, but it's not as good as we were told.
Right.
And it wasn't as tested, and it was a miracle that they got it out quickly. But, again, it's not what we were told. And, I think that the party line, I hate to say, has been, just shut up and get back in line. And I came across a great quote. I should have put this up. But supposedly, and some of these are bogus, but supposedly John F. Kennedy said way back in the 1960s that a society that does not trust its people to decide what they believe in an open marketplace of ideas is not a free society.
Yep.
And I'm sure he was thinking about, East Berlin and the Eastern Bloc countries, etc., the Soviet Union. But it's sad, hate to say it, fast forward, what are we now? Not even 60 years later. And sadly, it seems like we could apply a lot of that to our own country right now. We need this open marketplace of ideas. And how about this? I think we've already gone a little over the top. I'm just going to opine that I wish we could go back to having a more centrist media, where you could hear kind of both sides, and I know that whatever newspaper you got or whatever news source you get, the editorial section, it's always going to slant one way or the other. But growing up, I don't remember it like this, where, I feel like, different news sources are giving me only one side of the story. What do you say?
I couldn't agree with you more. And I would add to that and stack onto that is this freedom to change ideas or change our opinions as we gather more information. I'm pretty open about my kind of how I change my perspective as I gathered more information about the coronavirus. I'm not going to go too far down that rabbit hole, but you can imagine as someone with a lung condition, I was quite emotionally charged about it at the beginning. And I think to your point of having multiple sources of information and having, the ability to have free and open conversation and to not stigmatize or label people based on their thoughts, but rather just be a person. I'm Amy Sylvis. I think this, and I may change my mind as I observe, as I see things, occur. Like you said, especially in California, like, wait a minute, this is a little bit different than kind of what I initially thought was going on. So you can read between those lines. But yeah, to your point, I think having a free, open marketplace of the exchange of ideas, along with a media that, doesn't label or stigmatize people or, scarlet letter, things of that nature, is imperative. I think it's foundational to our society.
So just to kind of summarize, so yeah, you're just coming to the end there. I think we got cut off by the internet. But yeah, it would be great kind of if we didn't stigmatize people that thought differently. And well, let's hope we can kind of go back to that. And hopefully at some point soon, maybe we will have learned some lessons that you really can't slap a false, I forget what Facebook, I haven't been on there for such the longest time. My PA does the posting for me and she's amazing. That this place is so toxic. I don't need to be there. You just can't stamp something falsehood the next day. Truth is something that emerges. I mean, how many times have we been told something by the press, and then also through the press, days or weeks later, we find out that there's more to the story.
Yes. Yeah. In a headline kind of culture as well, it's impossible to be able to totally capture nuance, that way too. And that really is the nature of discourse and exchange of ideas, is really that nuance to your point. So, it takes effort, but it takes folks like us, I think, not to pat ourselves on the shoulder, but to say, hey, we're open-minded enough to take in new ideas and be challenged with, what we think, and humble enough to say when we change our own opinions when we're exposed to new ideas.
Yeah, amazing. But let's see if we can get this interview to break the internet, because I wanted this to be the end of boring podcast interviews. And I've been studying Joe Rogan a lot. And I want to know, why can there not be a Joe Rogan of multifamily? I mean, I feel like haven't we got great personalities here, Amy?
Without a doubt.
And we could just go free range. And like we're doing, just showing graphs and not being afraid to go live without a net, and just, not be afraid to just interpret a graph in real time. And did we miss something? I love Joe Rogan because he finds the truth. And, but he's also cool. I'll ask you your opinion of him in a moment, but I want to say he's so cool because you notice he interviews people across the political spectrum, and it's not like he doesn't challenge them,
right?
But he's also respectful. It's not a debate. He'll kind of go on their thread. He'll challenge them if he thinks they say something wrong, but you know what? He knows how to draw up the best in everyone. So hopefully we're going to get a little closer to channeling that Joe Rogan today. All right. So I think we're kind of heading into the second hour, but we started late. Heading into the second hour of this podcast. I know he goes for 3. So let's be serious for a moment. I know you do inspire a lot of people in so many ways for all the things you've done and for your sunshiny personality. But we did sort of allude to this earlier, and I don't think I really gave you the chance to fully tell your story. You've really overcome a lot. And I know back when I was in graduate school, I mean, cystic fibrosis was a completely different story. And I'll just let you pick it up from there because you've lived it.
Oh, I appreciate that. Yes. So as you mentioned, I'd love to start off by saying I'm 41 years old. I'm not ashamed of my age as a woman. You can see some of my gray hair and wrinkles. But to your point, when I was born in 1981 with cystic fibrosis, I was supposed to live to be about 16 or 18 years old. And for those who aren't familiar with CF, it is a genetic condition that my parents were silent carriers of. They didn't know. The gene actually wasn't discovered until 1989, so after I was born. But essentially, my lungs, without getting too technical, were set to deteriorate over time to the point where either I would need a lung transplant or, I just wouldn't be able to breathe without getting too dark. So growing up, I did have a lot of hospitalizations to treat really tough lung infections, pneumonia. I missed a lot of school. And even working at my former biotech job was an extreme challenge because I'd miss a lot of work from being sick. So, it was always something that I was at the forefront of my mind of balancing, living life and enjoying life, but also trying to take care of myself to the best way possible. And in 2019, a miracle medication came to the market that we had been hoping for, praying for, and it's completely changed my life.
Yeah, amazing and very inspiring. I mean, there's so much there in your story. I mean, again, you were loving life, but you also never really gave up on the career hopes. So you did have your job in biotech, and that was very important. But as I remember, you've been telling another video. I mean, you are very famous. Okay. So, Amy Sylvis is famous. And so you have said in interviews in the past that it kind of got you to think, hey, I don't want to just trade my time for money. A lot of people wait until they're 41 to have that, or even 51 or 61 to have that sort of an insight, but you had that earlier. And so you really, I think this is a long time coming. You mentioned 2019, but I think you tried to buy your first apartment, I think it was 2005. And so tell us about that and bring it back around full circle. How'd you get to the present moment?
Great question and great memory, by the way. Yes. As you can imagine, knowing that, knowing I had a progressive illness and seeing my peers around me with the illness, having to stop working, be on disability, and being reliant on other people to just kind of pay their basic bills. I'm a little stubborn like that. My parents sacrificed a ton, as you can imagine, raising a disabled child. And the last thing I wanted to do as an adult was have to come to them hat in hand, asking for their financial support when they had already sacrificed so much. They would have helped me without a doubt, but I would just had this in my heart that I had to find a way, regardless of my health situation, to be able to support myself. So exactly this notion of not having to trade my time for money and passive income fit me so perfectly.
Right.
Although ironically, now I've got the health where I can trade my time for money, but there are other benefits.
I'm glad you don't have to. I want you to enjoy your 40s and 50s and beyond. So yeah, I'm a little bit ahead of you. And I often think of myself as young, and I gotta remind myself, oh boy, it's short, and we'll see how. I got four nights of sleeping on the ground ahead of me, so we'll see how I do with that. It's been many a year since I've been sleeping on the ground.
Praying for your back. Praying for
thank you. Thank you. All right, so now back to being serious for a moment. But
yes.
I mean, I think this is really what life is. I mean, it's this bittersweet mixture of the very, very serious and the profound, and that, hey, we got to catch those smiles and those laughs, and we can't. But if I'm not mistaken, you could be on disability and taking in more money than most people know how to earn. But that's not Amy Sylvis.
Yes. And I like to be very clear that there's nothing wrong with being on disability. There are people that absolutely need that. And I'm very, encouraging and supporting of people doing, what they need to do. But to your point, George, 2010, I tried to get into this industry almost, 12 years ago. My health kept knocking me down. And I don't know, to kind of follow your footsteps in terms of quotes, I don't know who said this, but it is not whether you get knocked down, it's if you get back up. And as a 5'2" feisty woman, no, not feisty, but I did get knocked down, but I knew I was going to get back up more times, or each and every time that happened. So it took me 10 long years to purchase my first apartment building. And it was well worth it. And to your point, getting off of disability was, I've got this new health. What am I going to do with it?
Yes.
If I'm physically able, what am I capable of? Why not swing for the stars, or whatever that expression is, and just really see what I'm put on this earth to do, how many people I can impact, whether it's caring for residents, caring for my investors, and let's take this second chance at life and really go for it.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. And I'm glad you mentioned, of course, yes, you're right. There's nothing wrong with being on disability if you need it. And who knows, you may inspire somebody here listening to this who's able to find, and it isn't easy, right? I mean, you can't be a bricklayer if you have serious disabilities, right? I mean, a large swath of occupations are just completely off limits. But again, extraordinary people like you who have the creativity and the drive, you just keep at it, and you find it. And I don't know if I've ever shared this on the air, but I have health problems that are nothing like yours, but some major arthritis for most of my life. And for me, and again, this never threatened my life, threatened my livelihood, threatened a lot of fun. But one of the reasons I went into computer science and became a data scientist, and it turned out well. I became an award-winning data scientist.
Yeah.
It was because I thought, if I work through the computer, I can keep doing this.
Wow.
Whereas standing at that lab bench, whereas that's sort of more where I want it to be in work. But that's just how life works out. Just like in your story, by the time I got to that data science life, I was sitting down for 8-10 hours a day, standing up, walking around, doing whatever I needed to do, because I just figured it out, right? I got, I'm not going to go into it, but about a half dozen things that just helped me through my day. Wow. And I figured it out. So yeah, just persevere. Whoever's out there thinking like, man, it's so hard to earn a living with whatever I'm going through. If you try hard enough, you can find a way, and you might have to completely switch careers, but there are options out there. And I would just like to inspire, not giving anybody a hard time if you haven't found it yet, but hopefully, we can find more people who can get out there, because it's just more fun to be able to pull. So
without a doubt, thank you for sharing that. I'm sorry you had to go through that. That's it sounds really, really tough.
I'm going to say not at all, because I want to live my life with no regrets. And it's one of the things that builds character, like Nietzsche said, that what doesn't kill you makes it stronger. And so if you lay there and say, why me, your character is getting weaker. If you lay there and think, there's got to be a way, what can I still do? Then you can, that will build your character. So
true. So true. And both can happen, right? I mean, I try to encourage other people, and I think it's okay to acknowledge that things stink, or maybe something isn't fair. That's fine. And you can also take the next best step, and you can, work on your mindset, or, work with what you're capable of doing. So, I don't think it's an either or I'll submit to you my humble opinion. Both can happen, and they can both be really healthy.
Wow, 100%. So I've got to figure out how to wind this down. And no joke, I mean, I was joking earlier on about how our interview is going into the second hour here, but I think we are going to be going into the second hour soon. And I kept Vinny Chopra for a literal record-breaking 1 hour and 3 minutes.
Oh, that's
so I'm going to try not to do that. He's a really great guy, amazing, and I met him in person, and he really does have that personality. That is his personality. It isn't fake. So yeah, if you get a chance, go back and listen to that interview, because I asked him a question I don't know that's been asked before. I asked him, was he always like that? So there's your secret, your secret prize if you go back and listen to that interview. All right, so here, I'll ask you just one more awesome question. I know you have great insights into emerging markets. You do not invest in your backyard. So tell us about an emerging market. Tell us why you like it.
Sure. All right. So ready for the curveball. It is Evansville, Indiana. So if you look at my website, you've seen that we own 276 units there. And I will submit to you that it is like Chattanooga, Tennessee 10 years ago. Hot take. So to your point, I love market research. We all know what choosing the right market can do for real estate investing. And we take a very hard look at, statewide and local governance, what their laws are, how they attract local industry, migration, the type of industry that's in the area. And not only is Evansville incredible, the state of Indiana is investing a lot in infrastructure in Evansville. So connecting it as the third largest city in the state, connecting it to Indianapolis, that huge economic powerhouse, building a second bridge across the Ohio River to Kentucky, its neighbor to the south.
Yes.
And of course, Toyota has announced thousands of jobs coming down the pike at their existing plant that they're expanding. And just too many data points to count that make it such an incredible area. And we're seeing that play out with, these two properties that we've owned over the past 7 months.
Yeah, amazing, amazing, amazing. And yes, I've been using some of your quotes. I've been trying to tell people that East Tennessee, why East Tennessee? Why not Nashville? Why where everybody else is investing? Well, a lot of people are investing in East Tennessee, by the way. Jake and Gino are big out there. So there are a lot of people investing, but I want to go where no man has gone before. Not quite, but that's too scary. That's too far out. But I want to go places that are, like Nashville was 10 or 20 years ago. So that was my quote. I was on Tate's podcast earlier. So I was out there plagiarizing you.
Good. We got to spread the word, because, we're here to serve our investors, right? And if they understand the vision and see, you don't want to be in the sexy markets because they're already priced out. Institutional capital's already there. You're not going to make returns that you want there.
Go in tomorrow's sexy markets and then just go out and be sexy.
Flip our hair. Perfect. Let's go.
Okay. I'll tell you what, I think we're going to have to head up into our lightning round. So there are going to be a few curveballs here, but we'll start easy. Okay. Lightning round. Are you ready, Amy?
I'm ready. Let's go.
All right. Tell us one thing, could be something real estate focused or otherwise, about your real estate markets that most people wouldn't know. One thing.
Let's see. Well, so Huntsville, Alabama was just announced that they have the first commercial airspace designation in the world. So their airport does. So they're the only airport that can allow space travel to occur commercially, as opposed to, just NASA and the like. So I know, what do you think of that?
I love it. I love it.
Incredible.
Wow. I should have like an Elon Musk tie-in or something, but I
Yes.
don't. Yeah. When I go out to see my apartments in Orlando, sometimes we go out to the Space Coast, and I have not got to see any of those rockets launched yet. But my good friend and partner, Mark Prokop, he does. So he'll go out there when they launch and he'll take a little side trip. That's the great thing about real estate. I mean, we are working.
Yes.
We're working. But, if Elon's launching a rocket, 2 hours east of us, we just go.
Absolutely. You got to enjoy the fruits of that. How awe-inspiring to see a rocket launch. I mean, really,
Yes.
what a time to be
Yes.
alive.
I know. And just in time, too, because the government, gave it the space shuttle some years ago. So just in time, we've got private space travel.
Yes. Huntsville, go to Huntsville. You'll be taking off
Love
there.
it. Or maybe we'll come back through Huntsville. I don't know if
Yeah.
they're still going to launch them through the Space Coast, but
Wild.
we'll have to find out. I don't think they know yet either.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So give us one bit of advice that you would give your younger self.
Partner with people faster. I am a, type A-ish, in a good way, type person where, as you can imagine, my health background, all of the things I needed to do, no one else could do for me, right? I had to be the one doing the treatments. I had to be the one exercising. I had to show up at the doctor's appointments. And so, really kind of understanding, at least my view of the world back then, was if something needed to be done, I was going to get it done. But, one of the gifts of being in real estate was realizing how much better I could get to my goals and help and serve others by partnering with other like-minded people with complementary skill sets. So doing that sooner is most certainly something I would advise my younger self.
Awesome. All right. So let's continue with the advice.
Okay.
So what is the best real estate advice you've ever received?
Oh, the best real estate advice I ever received. I think of Jason Hartman. If you don't know who he is, I would definitely recommend following him on LinkedIn. But he talks about inflation-induced debt destruction. Here's that inflation fairy coming up again.
Love it. Here it comes.
Here it
Hashtag
comes.
inflation fairy, and Amy will show up on your post.
Yes, exactly. But I just think this concept, you mentioned, savings rates being 6%, when you were a young boy. And the vast majority of people in the United States under the age of 55 haven't been alive during times, or haven't been adults when inflation has been this high. And so this concept of borrowing money at 5 or 6% to buy real estate when inflation is at 9%, and how inflation erodes the liability we have as we pay back with cheaper and cheaper dollars. I think I guess it wasn't necessarily advice, but it's a perspective that really has served me well in getting me into the industry and helping my investors understand, the benefits of investing. And I think it's a real nice catchphrase that really helps us illustrate what can happen in terms of the multi-layers of benefits of investing in real estate.
Right. So if you're not in real estate yet, now's the time. There is not going to be a better time that you can take on some debt and hopefully pay it back with some cheaper dollars.
That's it. Powerful.
All right. So we know real estate is also full of bad advice. So give us, what is the worst advice you've ever heard in real estate?
I think a lot of us got either coaching or training in terms of getting into multifamily. And I always heard the notion that if you find a great deal, the investors and the money will come. You laugh, right? Yeah, because
I'm laughing because this is like 7 in a row. I get all kinds of different advice, but this is like 7 in a row because money is harder to come by. So I think that was always bad advice, but right now it is the worst advice.
Yeah, it really, this is a business, and we're here to serve people, whether it's our investors and our tenants, our residents, and just counting on the magical money to fall out of the sky to get a deal done is naive at best.
All right, love it, love it, love it. But, there you go. I think 7 in a row, there's got to be something to that. So,
Wow. That's
all
crazy.
right. Let's take a nod to the randomness in the universe. And now I want to say, I know it's not that there haven't been too many curveballs already, but tell me when to stop cutting the deck. You're going to get a random question. All right. Oh, okay. This is one that's actually been on the show already.
Okay.
What's the biggest lie you told as a child? So I'm going to give you a second on that. Oh, which fabulously impractical car would you like to own? I'll actually give you a choice. Which would you rather answer? Because I'm trying to get something that was never asked on the show.
Was the car one has that one never been asked?
The fabulously impractical car, that one has never been asked.
Okay. All right. I will tip my hat, though. I was grounded anytime I lied because I'm the world's worst liar. The nonverbals are almost comical. So I didn't do it a lot as a child, if you believe that, because I knew the harsh arm of the law of Mama Sylvis would come down on me. So I actually didn't do it all that much. It's okay. She meant well. She's a good woman. So yeah, for whatever that's worth. And practical car. I think I'm not really that much of a car lady, but my gosh, would my husband be thrilled with a Lamborghini, and seeing him happy brings me a ton of joy. So I think that would be outstanding.
Oh, how kind of you.
Well, so, I'm a robot. People being
half the reason to get rich is that you can do whatever you want with your money and you can see smiles around you, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm more of an experienced lady. So, things aren't as exciting to me, but not that my husband is overly materialistic, but I think a guy in a cool car is is a great thing. So that'll be one of our goals.
Love it. Love it. I'm an experienced guy myself. So gotta love that. All right. Now, give us a book that has helped to forge you as an entrepreneur and as a leader. I have a feeling you're going to say The Creature from Czechoslovakia. Or you got a different one for us today. Okay.
I mean, I love that book, right? That can never be overstated. But, I recently read Who Not How, which kind of dovetails into, again, me doing things and being the one to take control and get things done. The Who Not How is such a powerful concept that I think everyone can benefit from the book.
Right.
And if you're anything like me, always looking for solutions as an entrepreneur, right? There are always problems to be solved and creative ideas that we're all looking for. And I love this concept of there are always people that are smarter, more experienced, more well-trained, and more apt to get, to help you solve the problem or reach the conclusion that you want. And of course, with the added benefit of maybe that could be someone you're partnering with, or maybe you're giving someone a job, which is really cool too. So I love that book and how it really expanded my mind around problem solving and leadership.
I love it. That's another one we've heard again. And from the woman who said partner up earlier. So again, these are the terms to think of. How has a failure or misstep set you up for a later success?
Not to beat the dead horse of my health condition, but truly the gifts that came to me because of the struggle. It's almost as if the health issues were the portal through which I was meant to go through to have the success that I have, whether it's the tenacity or the perspective or even the empathy. I've been on the receiving end of people giving to me and caring for me and donating to causes when they received nothing from it other than knowing that they were helping somebody else. And having that perspective now on the side of being healthy and knowing the impact that I can have by, a kind word and encouraging, conversation, or even, of course, monetary donation or volunteering. The health challenges have been enormous in terms of setbacks, but the gifts have just been much larger than any of the setbacks.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Because of the way you lived through it. Amazing, amazing lesson, ladies and gentlemen. All right. So here, let's keep this simple. Can you give us a quote to help forge our listeners as leaders and entrepreneurs?
I'm going to turn my head because the quote that I love is on my wall and I don't want to misquote it because it's that important. So move my microphone over here with me. All right.
All right. Do it.
Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Yes.
Reminds me a little bit of Andrew Jackson. One man with courage makes a majority.
Goosebumps. George with the quotes.
All right. So yeah, I don't always go quote for quote, but that was a good one. All right. So we need to know, those of you who are inspired out there today by the story of Amy Sylvis, how can we reach you?
So I'm extremely active on LinkedIn. I would love to connect with you there. So LinkedIn, and of course, my last name is spelled Sylvis. I'm sure George will put that in the show notes.
Absolutely.
And then, of course, sylviscapital.com. You can learn a bit more specifically about real estate and what we do there to help our investors.
Okay, wonderful. Amazing story, inspiring story. We battled this out against all odds, through the internet breaking and through having to go to, I think this is like the Vassar Community Park.
Oh.
And they have great internet out here. If you ever driving through it, you need to do a podcast. But we did it, and you're amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and insights with our audience today, Amy.
What a gift, George. You're amazing. I'm so delighted to be able to add value to your audience, and please keep it up. You are definitely the Joe Rogan of real estate podcast. Let's go.
Well, we're working for it.
Let's go.
Someday maybe. And I just want to say that it is a pleasure and a privilege to know you, Amy.
Likewise. Thank you, friend.
Thank you.